In this video, I'm going to talk about the rather odd remaster of Medal of Honor Frontline. This was a remaster of the original 2002 game that you would get for free when buying Medal of Honor 2010 for PlayStation 3. It was a PS3 exclusive. So why is this port so odd? To me, it's just how out of nowhere and obscure it is. It's a PS3 exclusive of Medal of Honor Frontline that you got as a bonus for buying Medal of Honor 2010. I guess the main question I want to ask is why? Why not both do Rising Sun and Frontline, or have the remaster be on Xbox 360 as well? The particular choice is what puts me off a bit, as it sort of makes sense as well as not make sense. For instance, Frontline is what I believe to be the fourth Medal of Honor game. Before this you had Allied Assault, which was a PC exclusive. Then before you had Medal of Honor 1 as well as Underground, which were PS1 exclusives, so this can be hard to remaster as well as let alone port to the PS3. That makes sense in its own right. But then you have the question of why just Frontline and why just the PS3? Why not do both Frontline and Rising Sun, or maybe give players a choice between remasters when they buy the game? Maybe put the remaster on both consoles as opposed to just PS3 and PC if they get to work there. Or maybe stir up some minor competition and have one remaster on one console and one remaster on the other, just as a little joke. That's the part that perplexes me, as I just wish I had more availability, and I also wish we had more remasters of these games in general. Let's talk about the remaster itself. And in that case, we'll need to talk about the graphics, and I'll explain why in a minute. So what do you get out of this remaster? The main thing I noticed was the much improved lighting, as now scenes just look overall better, and most importantly have actual definitive shadows. Next thing I noticed is in that most areas you do get improved textures, even if at times it can be a little mild. Still though, the fact that it's even there is a nice improvement. Oh, and I forgot to mention, the biggest improvement of course is the enhanced resolution as well as frame rate. Of course this is not factoring in an emulation, this is just comparing the base versions of the games. There also is a nice added motion blur effect, which I do appreciate, and adds some realism as well as more cinematic look to the game, which again is much appreciated. When I was actually writing the script, I forgot to add in that you also get iron sights, proper iron sights, as opposed to the zoom in that you would normally have in the base game, which again, when you compare the two, iron sights are much more greatly appreciated. I guess the only downside there is the change in the game's color palette. It doesn't look particularly worse or better, it just looks different. In terms of contrast, some areas look darker while others look brighter, but that's really it. It's not really that big of a deal. On a quick side note, I actually have heard some people claim that the remaster ruins the tone of the original game, and to an extent I agree with them, but here's the thing, the original game had a lot of toned down and washed out colors in order to achieve a gritty look. But what happened with a lot of these older World War II games that tried to do this is that the gritty look ended up just looking gray and dull and gross and flat. It wasn't a unique gritty, it was a crappy gritty. And that's what happened to this game's color palette. I'm honestly gonna say it's not a unique kind of grittiness. It's just a very boring, dull, and gross grittiness. So the fact that they changed it to have more color, I think is fine. I mean, World War II had color to it. It's not like if you went to France back then, you know, everything's gonna look gray and dull. It's not. It's France. You can have color in a World War II game. So no, I don't think this remaster fucks up the game's color palette at all. I guess you could say it's different, but it's not really different for the worse. It doesn't ruin the game's themes, I should say. That's a better clarification of it. One thing I would have liked to see this remaster do is add more friendly soldiers to the D-Day scene in the first level. The original scene was pretty barren for D-Day, and that was just due to the hardware's at the time limitations. However, seeing that this remaster came out in a totally new era with all new powerful consoles, it's a shame to see they didn't do a little more with that. My main gripe with this remaster is the fact that it only came out on PS3. I can guarantee you, if it came out on 360, I would have it, as Frontline is a really good game. And I've gone back in recent days and played it again. It's not just my nostalgia tricking me. The original game was on Xbox, so it can run on Xbox hardware. Just to clarify, I do not own this remaster. I own the original game, but you can also just take a look at both until they play the same. This makes this game the only game I have on this series that I don't actually own. Back on topic though, since it's just a remaster, not a remake, you're not getting a completely different playing experience by playing the remaster. It's just there if you like the original game but want better graphics. Again, not factoring in emulation. Also, I do wish we got more remasters of these games in general. I would have loved a Rising Sun remaster, and I'm pretty sure both games were on the same engine, so I think that most likely would have been more than possible. Now, I could be taking this out of proportion a bit. Maybe this remaster was just supposed to be a little bonus for the PS3 owners, but shows that at some point EA was interested in remastering games, at least the Medal of Honor ones. It's sort of a shot of what could have been as opposed to what we got had they pursued this idea more, as well as sank more time into it. However, maybe that would have made more sense in the later years. Seeing how EA has made another Medal of Honor game, albeit not so successful one, it does show they still have some interest in this series and want to do something with it. And honestly, I think remasters are just the best bet with this series. If you port some of the original games to new consoles such as Allied Assault, Frontline, and Rising Sun, and give them PC ports as well, and give them overall better graphics such as improved lighting and textures as well as some other things, and I think it would be a good way to bring some fans back into the series, as well as even getting some new ones. Back to the remaster itself, I think it overall is the better way to play the original game again without factoring in emulation, but this remaster does allow certain things that an emulator wouldn't, such as better lighting and textures, as well as a native 60 FPS. You can achieve 60 FPS through emulation, although it does take some tweaks, but in the end, if you have a PS3 and want to play Frontline to revive nostalgia or play it for the first time, this remaster is a great way to do so, and I highly recommend it, despite never having played it before.